So, what is the perineum? It's a diamond-shaped region that's bordered by the pubic symphysis, our ischial tuberosities, and coccyx bone. So we go, there's our pubic symphysis, there's one of the ischial tuberosities, and there's the coccyx, and we connect them all. There's our perineum. It's a diamond-shaped structure, and it contains the urethra, the vaginal orifice, and the anus. Now, the perineum can be subdivided into two other triangles, the urogenital or UG triangle and the anal triangle. So let's take a line between the two ischial tuberosities, shing, like that. And then in front of that line, we have the urogenital triangle because it contains the urethra and the vagina, so the urogenital triangle. And then behind that line is where the anus is located, so they call that subtriangle the anal triangle. Perineal muscles are skeletal muscles. I'm going to say that again. They're skeletal muscles, which means they are voluntary. You consciously control the contraction of these muscles within the perineum. Now, it seems a little bit odd. It's not quite like, hey, I can contract my biceps and bend my elbow, or contract my quads and straighten my knee. But you can contract these perineal muscles and stop the stream of urine, or stop a bowel movement, or feel these muscles and the tension in the perineum. During orgasm, these muscles rhythmically contract. And so they are skeletal muscles, and they're voluntarily innervated. Or they're voluntarily controlled. And the way that you control them is through innervation of the pudendal nerve. So perineal branches that go to the perineum from the pudendal nerve, innervate these muscles. And so the ischiocavernosus muscle is the first one we'll talk about. It arises from the ischiopubic ramus. And so ischio for ischium, and cavernosus because it surrounds the corpora cavernosum of the clitoris. So here we have the ischiocavernosus muscle on both sides. And on one side, you see pretty much the length of the muscle. And the other side, you see it go up and then it stops. And it stops because in this illustration, it's cut. But there you can see the crus and the corpus cavernosum. And that's where, of course, the muscle is surrounding those which are part of the clitoris. And this muscle, what it does when it contracts, it helps to keep blood, it helps to first rhythmically contract during orgasm, and also its contraction helps to compress the erectile tissue. And there you can see the erectile tissue deep to the ischiocavernosus on the other side. Now, another muscle is called the bulbospongiosus muscle. And so there's the bulbospongiosus muscle, and it surrounds and compresses the bulb of the vestibule. You see the bulbospongiosus, most of it on that side, and the other side it's cut. But you can see how it would cover the bulb of the vestibule, that erectile tissue. So it surrounds and it compresses it during erection, and also rhythmically contracts during orgasm. And you can see the bulb deep to the bulbospongiosus on the right. We also have the superficial transverse perineal muscle. This muscle supports the perineal body. So there's that superficial transverse, because of course it's in the transverse plane, perineal muscle. And there's our perineal body. And why? And for this one, for my students especially, if you can just know you can identify it, it's a good landmark. That's the main thing I need to know. But the perineal body is an interesting structure, because there's the perineal body, and it's a fibromuscular mass located in the center of the perineum between the anus and vagina. And it's an attachment site for the superficial and deep perineal muscles, as well as levator ani and external anal sphincter. So there's our perineal muscles, and there's the levator ani, and there's the external anal sphincter. And you notice that you can't quite see the levator ani, but the perineal muscles and the anal sphincter you can see, where they all come together in that fibromuscular mass. And now this is important because if you have a tear, say during childbirth, that goes from the birth canal, that vaginal canal, down, and it tears into this perineal body, you now weaken this area, and a number of muscles are then affected because they don't have the attachment support that they should. And this is what could end up happening with creating fecal incontinence or urinary incontinence or dissatisfaction during sexual relations. So let's do a little bit of review, shall we? So here's the perineum. There's the glans clitoris and the labia minora, and there's our ischiocavernosus and bulbospongiosus muscles, as well as the superficial transverse perineal muscle and a deep transverse perineal muscle, and there's our external anal sphincter. And I put pelvic diaphragm, that what you see there is the levator ani portion of the pelvic diaphragm. And then what we're going to do is take a scalpel blade and then cut around this muscle and go shing, bing. So now we see deep to that tissue, to the muscles. So now we can see there's our glans clitoris, and we can also see the corpus cavernosum on both sides. And then we can see the crus, and then we can also see the bulb of the vestibule on both sides. And then we have the greater vestibular gland there. So there's our perineum.